for having us, and welcome from sunny California.
Yeah, we're here in Redlands. So thank you guys for having us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we're really missing the home cooking for sure. Yeah, as you mentioned, my name is Remi Myers. I'm the product manager for the utility network. And
I'm Melissa Mayo. I'm a product engineer on the Geodata team, and I try to help with the utility network as much as I can and keep Remi in line mostly.
that's a pretty big job.
It's a tall order.
Yeah. So Mel, you want to go ahead and get us started?
Sure. So we're going to be exploring the ArcGIS Utility Network with you guys today. But before we jump into that, we want to lay a little bit of framework and talk about ArcGIS and the ecosystem. Would you move slides for me, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So we and forgive my voice. I'm struggling. My Alabama allergies are struggling out here in California a little bit. So just overlook my voice a little. But yeah, so we want to talk a little bit about what is, ArcGIS and lay some groundwork before we move into the utility network. As you can see, there's multiple components really that make up the entire product suite that we call ArcGIS. So, Pro, we have that as the foundation. That's that desktop capability. For using GIS, we can use it for authoring, traditional maps, running analysis, just doing general cartographic tasks that you would expect of any GIS analyst or technician. Their expertise and their capabilities are being utilized within that pro environment in that traditional GIS workflow, but they're kind of captured and captive there. And for you to be able to fully employ the GIS throughout other business units and teams at your company and harness that power that GIS has, you've got to be able to utilize ArcGIS Enterprise as a bigger piece of the pie, really. And so it provides methods and systems and can expand GIS capabilities throughout your organization. So we're going to dig into Enterprise just a little bit and talk about how we can harness GIS beyond that, just those traditional mapping functionalities, and we'll make our way to the utility network that way. Yep, let's go. Again, keeping you straight. It's a hard job. So when we talk about ArcGIS for utilities, you can kind of see some of these layers and these topics building in here. Really what it does is it helps provide the means to visualize and analyze and communicate information from many systems, because we know within utilities we have a lot of different groups and a lot of different organizations, and we have a lot of systems that we have data in, that we pull data from, that we feed into, and we need to be able to pull those together and really utilize all that information in one area in one resource to be able to see the big picture. So utilities really do have mountains of data, and it comes in all shapes, all sizes, all kind of types. And those are specific sometimes within given business units. And then even, when business units take the same data, they may want to use it in different ways. So they may have the same piece of data, but they're using it to do different things with. So sometimes when we look across utilities, it can be difficult to really identify, do we have the piece of data? Where is it? Who owns it? Where does it live? How can I gain access to it? Some of that can be difficult. And it's really time consuming as well. To be able to do that, you've got to have multiple conversations with different people across your business. Sometimes we've even got to resort to digging through paper. I know I've had to do that before for sure, and find what we need and where is it and get that digitized in. But with the utility specific approach to GIS, we can incorporate information from any business unit across the company and use it to enhance things like safety efforts, decision-making processes, make those easier, and even identify areas, other areas that need attention. Sometimes GIS can help uncover issues that you didn't even know were there once you get everything pulled in and start looking at it from that holistic business unit approach.
Okay.
And so, when we're looking at enterprise and we're looking at different areas within a utility where GIS can be accessed and used, you can really see some things that are pulling in and showing here where we have lots of different products that are within enterprise. And one of those products is the utility network. I think we're missing some icons and some pieces. If you can get those to keep coming in for me. But it goes across the business in different for different use cases, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So we have a number of different products, and those are engineered to solve specific problems and challenges that customers face. But really specifically, they're designed with utilities in mind, or specifically designed with utilities in mind, I should say. The utility network provides a common set of data that flows throughout the organization. So it can remove things like data siloing within individual business units, and it provides a system where data can be shared really throughout the org in a way that was never done before. So you can see on the slide that there are so many aspects of enterprise that can be used across a business, and the utility network provides that common platform. It's a common platform for data. You can use it for analysis, layering, dashboard compilation, decision making. So not everybody needs to be in the utility network, but the utility network can fuel all sorts of different applications and products that can be deployed throughout an organization. Think about it, the UN is the base, and it provides that gold standard version of your data that for your organization, and from which all the other services can run. So still digging into how the utility network supports the entire business. You have, utility network as the base. You have all the departments that, you can think about your own organization. There's lots of different departments. And then there's lots of different components that feed into those departments, or that those departments are trying to access, whether it's imagery, survey and routing, facilities, all those bits and pieces. They have a lot of users that are needing to access and utilize this data. And so when you have that utility network, you can think about it, as sort of an information highway is what I like to think about it. It's that underlying current, it's that foundation, and you can use it to really feed across that organization and get out to all those users, internally, externally, however you need to support people from your business. You can do that. I go playing off that the information highway thing a little bit. Think about it as you have on and off ramps in the form of databases and REST services. You have living Atlas connections and external data sources. Even you've just got lots of different data and lots of different information, and those are your on and off ramps with the utility network. And those can feed things like your databases, like your dashboards, your field maps, your field operations. All of that can push out to that and really put the power of GIS in the hands of decision makers at an executive level, all the way down to field people, people out in the field who are on a construction crew who really need that up-to-date information. So the utility network, as one piece of an entire enterprise deployment application. Fill in the terms for me, Remi. My brain just got stuck. But it really helps a business be able to maximize and harness GIS and feed it across the organization and really empower those people, wouldn't you say?
I think the power of the enterprise is the ability to collaborate and coordinate information across these different business systems. So we really didn't mention it in our introductions, but both Melissa and I are former supervisors of transmission at Alabama Power.
Yeah.
We both had the same job. When I was there, it was a little bit less enterprise. Well, there wasn't an enterprise. We had individual siloed data sets, and we were trying to coordinate and combine the various business departments using geography as that Rosetta Stone, that common language where planning can communicate with operations, can communicate with construction. So I didn't have the opportunity of an enterprise. And matter of fact, we had a number of field crews that were reliant upon our team to actually go out remotely and update software individually. And that changed drastically when you came in, and
Yeah,
Alabama Power took advantage of the enterprise.
Yeah, it just made things so much easier, and you were able to really, get GIS out beyond just those technicians and those of us who were the GIS professionals. We were able to showcase it. More and more people saw the value in it. They saw how what it would bring to their individual group, and we'd start getting those calls and be like, "You guys did this thing for that department. Can you do this for us?" Or they'd say, "Hey, we've got this idea, but we're not sure, and can we make this happen?" And so Enterprise was really helpful for us because we were able to deploy web maps. We were able to put things on iPads, and people were able to take it with them. It wasn't just locked down to those of us who were in the office, using the software on the laptop. The ArcMap or Pro. Once we shifted to Pro, we were able to put that in everybody's hands. Really.
Right, and it was, in my opinion, I think what you guys took advantage of using the enterprise is to be able to have focused user solutions. So you were able to build tools specifically for the job at hand, as opposed to a one size fits all kind of, as I described, traditional GIS.
Well, you have some demos for us
I
today, don't you?
I do. So I'm going to start by saying, we really, thank you, Melissa, for kind of walking us through the enterprise. I think the big takeaway that I want you to consider in terms of the utility network, the enterprise, and just managing your data is it's not a one size fits all. Just like GIS is very holistic and it can provide tools for almost every solution, your actual data framework and whether or not you use the utility network, we're going to strongly encourage you to make it a function of your business. So if you want to be able to just view and see data, have it presented in a way that you can run it through a services architecture as quickly and responsive as possible. We have options where you can have a data schema without the utility network. So you can view, you can shape your information and build up your data. So when you are ready to start tracing and using diagrams and some of the utility functions, you're able to migrate there easier. The second phase is you have an option where you may be coming from a geometric network, or you may have data, but you really don't want to take you don't need that highest level of resolution that the utility network offers. You may just want to be able to simply trace upstream and downstream and draw diagrams. Well, there's an option for that too. And in the next release of ArcGIS Pro 3.5 and ArcGIS 11.5, there's going to be a migration tool for the UN where you can take it from a GN or non-configured data, bring it into a very simple UN, be able to connect everything to everything, be able to start tracing. And then your final option is your full-blown UN with all the bells and whistles. You've got the ability with the utility network now to model at all scales, all dimensions, including 3D. And I'd like to take you through that now. So I'm going to start with an electrical foundation. And at Esri, we offer a number of packages through the ArcGIS Solutions website. This is one example. This is just a basic electric utility network. You've got the ability to build it out, make it more complex, make it less complex. But what I'd like to walk you through are some of the new features in a utility network. And first is the data. So previously in the geometric network, you just brought your own data format, you brought it in, synced it up, and you had a network. In the utility network, we take your data and we compress it into a very structured number of layers. And those layers have very unique properties and configurations. So for example, in every utility network, once you have an operational domain, such as an electric, gas, water, communications, you're going to have a device layer. So in my electric network, I've got an electric device layer. And I can see in my device layer that I have assets for transmission, for distribution primary, distribution secondary. So each one of these subtypes of the layer represent general properties of those features. Now I can go in and I can have even more specific details of those features. So we call this subtyping asset groups for general descriptions, asset types for more specific descriptions. So we're able to model features, hundreds of features, as many features as you have, and compress them in these very few layers to give you the best performance across that services architecture. Looking into my utility network, at this scale, it seems pretty simplistic. But as I drill in, you could see there's more and more detail all the way down to the secondary of my network. So this is just one example. It's one methodology of displaying data. You definitely have abilities to symbolize, represent features as complex or as simple as you'd like. The utility network just gives you that flexibility. So I'm gonna jump back to slides. Let's turn them back on. I'm gonna skip over here. I don't know why that was so hard. So looking one step further, in the utility network, we also provide templates. And it's kind of more of a function of Pro, of web maps, of mobile apps, but we provide templates so that you can edit very complex features almost like rubber stamping them in. We also have rules that help you solidify how things are connected or how things are contained. In the geometric network, if you're familiar with it, we called it a build as you go format. So as you created a new feature, that feature was tested and put in the index with very, very simple rules. The utility network rules are much more advanced, and we have this two-step process where you're enabled to edit as many features as you want, and then you validate them for correctness, and it includes them into the network index. And then finally, we have network attributes that are kind of like weights in a geometric network, and they're stored to give you the ability to do precise tracing or precise queries. So you're looking at me. Am I talking too much?
You're talking a bunch, but that's okay.
So takeaways from looking at the data of the utility network, the services and the ArcGIS Enterprise enables you a better user experience. We've also provided web solutions to give you more of a focused user experience from a centralized supporting system and mobile applications for the field. The desktop we anticipate is really going to be for your advanced editing for your GIS teams and enable them to really kind of take that perspective to a whole new level. So I'm going to go ahead and come back to my Pro again really quick. And just for kicks and giggles, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a simple feature. So I'm just going to take this. I'm going to drop a line. So my new editing features in ArcGIS Pro gives me the ability to kind of pull out all these details and search for whatever I'm looking for. I'm going to do a quick search. A line. And let's say I'm just going to pull out. Go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking live demo, it's a gamble. We'll see what happens, right?
I always do.
Living on the edge.
So I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and draw some medium voltage conductor. So I'm going to draw a three-phase here. I've got the ability to come in and verify and validate all of my attributes before I create my edit. And as I draw an edit, I'm just going to pop something on my map. So what I hope you see is there's this purple, I think it's purple, I'm colorblind, is it purple or blue?
Bluish purple.
Okay, bluish
we do
purple.
that.
So this is what we call a dirty area. So this dirty area indicates that I just created a new feature. It's on the map space, but it's not participating in the utility network yet. So for me to include that in the utility network, I'll run a quick validate. my edit gets checked in, and we are ready to go. So that's a very simple edit. I'd like to kind of take it from here and show you tracing capabilities. So if you're familiar with Pro, I'm going to apologize a little bit in advance. I'm just realizing the Pro that I'm demonstrating is 3.5 that is coming out next month. So this is a development version of it if it looks a little bit different. But what I'm going to do is yeah, you're getting a sneak peek. I've got a feature selected here, medium voltage conductor. Let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit. And I want to run a quick downstream trace. Now, the utility network has this concept called controllers. And what controllers do is they enable you, speak English, Remi, Louisiana coming out. The controllers enable you to identify where your circuit breaker is and identify directionality from that circuit breaker or pump if you're a water or a gas system. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly run a downstream trace, or maybe I'm not. Wow. Live demo, come here. Well, let's switch to my other demo. Oh, we blacked out on that too. There we go. Let's go ahead and switch to the other demo. That was interesting. So I'm going to run another type of trace. I was just attempting to run downstream trace. The trace I'm going to run on this water system is what we call an isolation trace. And this isolation trace is going to give me the ability to identify my controller, use the isolation valves in my water system to determine if I've got a leak at this green point here on my pipe. If I've got a leak here, how can I isolate it with local valves that are configured for isolation? So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my isolation trace. I'm going to use a very specific type of network attribute called a category, and that category is going to give me the ability to, let me do it as a function better. It's going to give me the ability to isolate the features. So let's try to run that. And that's not working. Filter barrier. I'm in condition barriers. Oh. Filter barrier. Get it together, Remi. Category specific to isolation. And let's run it again. So what you saw, oh my goodness, no valid network controllers file. What you're seeing is I just ran a trace and it returned my two isolation valves that I want to establish. Now, what I can do is I can include all the isolation features. So I'm going to run the same trace, but I want to identify all the customers that are impacted by this isolation. So what I've got here is using the same parameters in the trace toolbar. I can either isolate the valves that shut down the leak, or I can represent all of the assets that are within that leak area once I isolate it. So one of the options you've seen, there's a lot of trace parameters in the trace toolbar. And You've also got the ability to actually store these trace configurations. So every time you run a trace, you don't have to go through and select through all the features that I just did, or select the wrong feature like I just did in my demo. Thank you for that look. You've got the ability to actually save the parameters and store it as a trace configuration, push it out to the field, to your web users or your mobile users, and they've got all of the parameters preset. All they have to do is identify a starting point where they'd want to run a complex trace like this isolation trace. And they could use those tools without having to muck through all the parameters. So fun times, right?
I figured you were just gonna say I jinxed you yesterday.
Well.
I did question about the live demo.
So I like to show how these traces work, and I mentioned network rules. We use rules to establish how things connect to each other. So for example, in an operational data set, such as a power data set, you might go from a line to a point. In our computer sciencey terms, we call that an edge to junction rule type. We also have the ability to offset features. This is a new opportunity specific to the utility network. And we can offset things like the transformer from fuses and breakers on a pole or in a station. We call that a junction to junction rule type. If we've got a situation where we're going from overhead to underground, or we might be going in a pipe situation from a steel pipe to a plastic pipe, there's usually some sort of device that enables that transition. We use edge to junction to edge rule types for those. Now, I'm going to give you a little insight. I know we're throwing a lot at you in this presentation. Melissa, we've got a desktop companion coming around the user conference, right?
We do. Remi and I and our colleague, Chris Crimmins, have written a book that's coming out through Esri Press. It's called the Top 20 Skills for Using the ArcGIS Utility Network. And so it should be out by the UC. And what we hope is that it takes all of what you just saw him doing and all of the talk that we're going through, and it makes it easier to walk through and do on your own, whether or not you wanted to take it and read it through cover to cover and work through it. There's lots of examples, lots of plain English. I hope I tried really hard to make sure it was plain Englishly written, and or if you've got a specific area that you want to work on, like such as tracing, or you want to work on subnetwork things, or whatever, you could pull out those individual, go to that specific chapter and really hone in your skills on that. So it's definitely, it's an introduction or it's at an introductory level for the utility network, I guess is a good way of putting it. And so that'll be something that people can look forward to coming out soon. So I hope it's helpful for sure.
So it's absolutely designed from a soup to nuts configuration, where all the way from editing templates and starting utility network all the way through some of the most advanced trace configurations and other things we do. So yeah, I just want to take a minute to remind the audience that this is a lot. We recognize it. We do have companion tools that are coming to help demystify this. So the next sort of rule that I'd like to go into, we call containment. So it's like being able to go inside a plant or inside a vault, where we can represent it very simply when you're zoomed out, and then you can dive in and see all these assets and see all these facilities at a higher level of resolution. And then finally, one of the things I was most excited to see in the utility network was not only the ability to model my operational data, but also to model the structural features that have reliability impact on the operational data. So like poles on wires, or frames on pipes, or even vaults and cabinets that are used to house assets, but not necessarily have anything to do with the operational perspective. So that is our rules and tracing. So taking, that tracing example one step further, I'd like you to think of tracing as composed of the start points, evaluating or establishing where do you want to start your trace from. The network components that get selected in the query, and then the barriers and stop points that tell the trace to stop here. These barriers can be established manually. So you can go on a map and say, I want to start here and I want a barrier here so my trace doesn't go beyond it. It also lets you build features and functions in the GP tool, kind of like I did for the isolation trace. So think of barriers as a parameter that stops the selection set of a trace. And what's exciting for me is there's lots of output formats for a trace. You could have a selection set like we saw on the map. You could export them as features. You could export it as JSON if you want to take the results of your trace and load it into like an ADMS or an ERP system, or even you can set up calculated functions to return messaging. So what are the takeaways? You've got a ton of options for tracing and analytics in the utility network. It can be simple traces or it can be directional. And what's important for me is, from an asset management perspective, now you can include supporting or structural features in the result of a trace. So the next thing I'd like to cover is network diagrams. So diagrams are very interesting visualizations for me because we used to use them as single line diagram representations, or even taking the values of a fault trace and displaying it as a diagram used to be a little bit more complex. Now it's actually a direct byproduct of the utility network. So if I go back to my water example, and I've still got my isolated features selected here, I can go in my diagram panel and I can take those selected features and create a diagram. So you might be like, Remi, so what? It looks exactly like the geographic features. Well, I can establish a layout to make it flow a little bit more like the assets do on the ground. So I don't have to limit myself in my diagrams to actual geographic representation. I can have logical representations. And in my diagram layouts, I've got a wide range of options. It's not just the tree format that I use. But what's more exciting for me is I have the ability to go in my diagram, and let's say I want to select features. So I just selected a feeder going to a critical customer, and I want to see that represented on my map. Well, the diagrams are totally interactive with the utility network. So I can take that selection set, bring it back to my map, and actually see that customer's location in my isolated area. So that's the three major components that we're going to cover today in the utility network. We really wanted to touch on, I don't know why it keeps doing that. We really wanted to touch on the data itself. We wanted to explore tracing, and we wanted to look at diagrams. So looking at diagrams one step further, You've got the ability to configure these diagrams based upon a wide range of map styles and symbols. So I just created mine based upon the map interface. They can be more simple. They can be designed whatever makes sense for your business. As I mentioned, selections in the diagram can be pushed back to the map space. I could also go from a map to the diagram, and I've got the ability to edit and store those diagrams as needed. So what are the takeaways from diagram? First, they're derived from network features. These diagrams offer a wide range of visualizations. You can format them or configure them based upon the engineering department's requirements. And they can be simple or advanced based upon how you tool the system. So just like everything else with the utility network, it's highly configurable, and we're designing it to support your business. So Melissa,
Why were these the things we decided to talk
I think that they're the most impactful elements of the utility network. The data, we've made that structure to make it perform over a services architecture as quickly as possible. As you scale up with some of these larger utilities, we've actually got a telecom community in Asia that has 6 billion data points and does 10 million transactions a day. That's where that REST services, that services architecture really comes into play. We saw with the tracing that it's really a powerful tool that gives users the ability to configure these traces a wide array of uses and purposes beyond what, candidly we considered when the utility network was being designed. And finally, diagrams. We felt that if we're going to build an operational system, that diagrams are a critical part of that visualization effort. So for me, looking at the utility network, it's about data, it's about analytics, and it's about visualizations.
So would you say these are the three of the things that kind of bring some of the, I don't want to say the most value, but they bring, special value or, particular value for utilities based off the work that, you've seen, done personally, and from the customers that we've talked to and the people that we've engaged with?
Absolutely. I think that the big advantage is that these three capabilities, these three functions, can be deployed whether you have the most simple utility networks, the most basic utility networks, or the most complex. Whether you build it your own or whether you use a partner to integrate with your asset management systems, your ADMS or planning system. So it's really for us about giving our customers the power to deploy solutions based upon their business drivers.
And we didn't plan to talk about those couple of things, but I felt like it was important for people to hear that. And I wanted to make sure that you covered it because you do a very good job of it, but just wanted to make sure that, they understood why we picked those things and what the value that it brings.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, we could wax poetically about the utility network for weeks, and nobody wants to hear that.
Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody's here for that.
So thank you for that.
Okay. Do we want to move on to the values?
Please.
Okay. You want to switch? Oh, you got my slide going.
I
Okay.
do. Look at me.
Look at you. You're on top of it. So it really, as you've heard Remi mention, it really leverages the power of the enterprise. And so, it provides those focused user solutions everywhere across your business. It really, the utility network enables you to be able, along with enterprise, to be able to bring the technology throughout your business and share it across the whole organization. You really can sharpen your data quality utilizing it. There's tools and things that really lock in that, and encourage and require that higher level of accuracy. So it really brings your data up to a next level as far as the accuracy of it's concerned. And that's always important, especially when you're making decisions or when you're utilizing this for safety things. It's so important to have really up to date and really accurate data and information. We talked about a little bit about the modeling capabilities and the way we can use it for advanced analytics. All those things kind of, go in together. You can be as simple or as complex as you need with it, as you mentioned. And you really can explore the potential of it no matter the scale, no matter how big or large your system is, no matter how involved and how, detailed you build it out to be. You've got a lot of opportunities that open up once you get a utility network in place and bring in those capabilities and those tools. And it allows you to really deepen your understanding of the network. You can do so many things, and you may want to talk more about this, before we wrap up. But it really allows you to be able to dig in and explore areas of your data that you might not have even thought about before, that didn't really show up until you were able to see it and be able to utilize it with all of these tools and analytics and capabilities. And really, improving your customer response. So when you're looking at those trends and patterns of your customer, customers that are coming on the system, customers going off the system, new big projects coming in, and those big critical customers coming in, and how that impacts what that does to the overall demand and flow of the system. All of that's really important and can be heightened, in a new way, I guess, with the utility network. There's a lot. Now I'm the one tripping over my words, but yeah, you can add color commentary as you see fit. But yeah.
So I think it's really important to understand that GIS is evolving, and I think that's the big takeaway here. I was very excited to come on the utility network team when it went into production, because it was the first true enterprise focused solution. And coming from a utility, I was really happy to see utilities get represented first. I think the interesting aspect of it is really to gain a deeper level of understanding of your systems and business at scales and representations that we just struggled to do before. I love the thought of having a network where I can not only represent my current state, but I could look at a number of what ifs. I could build systems where, what if we bring in this new manufacturing facility or this new data center? How does that impact my electrical system? How does it impact the water and cooling? What about the gas representation, the gas networks? I've just loved the technology, and I loved how the community is adapting to it in so many interesting ways. I think one of the most intriguing aspects of the utility network that I've seen was some friends of ours from Norway use the utility network to monitor clearances for their power lines in cross-country ski areas. So they monitor weather real time, speak English real time, and as snowdrift builds up, they can use the utility network to study the clearances, and where necessary, they'll send out helicopters to inspect those clearances. And very cool, if needed, they'll use the helicopters to blow the snow away.
That is a cool example.
Yeah, so we've been talking a lot. I don't see any questions in the chat. And we can continue to take up the rest of the time. Goodness knows I can talk.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to stop and see if anybody on the call had any questions or comments, concerns, feedback. Is this the kind of presentation you guys like to see? Would you like to see more of it in the future, or would you like us to go into deeper detail? Anyone?
Hey, Remi, this is Uday. We met in the Magic Conference last year.
Yes, sir. I remember.
Yeah, so we are doing this planning for migration to utility network at this point. Something that came up recently from Esri is that you also have a utility network build tools that can readily migrate the data into a UN model. Can you talk a little bit more of that, and any limitations that we and need to be aware of if we take that
Ab-
path?
Absolutely. So, yeah, based upon vigorous customer demand, I think that's a very nice way to put it. Let's just face it, migration into the utility network can be a challenge. And as the sophistication of your network increases, it takes more steps and more evaluation to migrate your data. I will tell you very candidly that Jack himself insisted that a builder be provided, and it is coming available to the public in the next network management release of ArcGIS Pro 3.5, ArcGIS Enterprise 11.5, a migration builder or migration wizard. And what this wizard will do is it'll take a geometric network or any other sort of unstructured data and create a very simple utility network that does not necessarily have rules. Everything can connect to everything. So it gets you a set of data that you're able to trace and build diagrams on, but more importantly, it gives you a starting point that you can build up complexity in your utility network as you go. So that's a feature that is coming. I think it was actually betaed in February on our EAC community. Do you remember what EAC stands for? Early Adopter Community. I'm sorry, I'm having a senior moment, guys. But in the early adopter community, the actual tool was exposed in 3.4, I believe. But in the release of 3.5, it will be available. And it comes with wizards to help you not only migrate quickly to a utility network, but migrate and help do data quality for you. But the key to remember is it's going to be a very simple network. Go ahead.
I was just going to mention that our colleague Robert Kreischer has posted. He's been putting a lot of documentation together, and I know he started posting some of that to is it in the community and the blogs? I guess
In community and in the blog,
Yeah.
we could definitely provide links.
Yeah, for sure. So there is documentation coming out to help support it as well, and trying to make sure people are able to utilize it to the best of their abilities and capabilities based off, like you said, the complexity of the network is going to dictate, how that goes. But yeah.
Yeah, you'll hear us talk about options now, where option 2 is like a no network option with just schema. I'm sorry, option 1 is no network with schema. Option 2 is exactly what you're talking about. It's using this builder to build a very simplistic utility network so that you can do tracing and diagrams, and you can build up complexity as you go. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for asking us a question. It's good to hear from you again.
Thank you.
Looks like we've got 7 more minutes. Any other questions? If not, you guys are gonna be forced to listen to me talk.
Lee may save them and say,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's okay."
Yeah. So Melissa, I think this could be an opportunity to talk a little bit about what's coming, what else is coming in the next network management release. So if you currently have a utility network, I don't know if anybody on the call does, one of the challenges that we've heard about is some users enable and disable their network. Now, I didn't touch on it significantly, and I am watching time, but the utility network uses a new type of versioning called branch versioning. And branch versioning is unique in that it never deletes your data. It goes into delete status. You don't see it on your map, but it's still exposed in the database. So what we're seeing is as some of these larger utilities enable and disable, things like the dirty areas, even though they're deleted, they can bloat or enlarge some of the database tables. So the team has created a new GP tool that we've described as prune. I was about to say trim, it's called prune. And what prune will do is when you have some of these excessive records that are not necessary to your end, you can run this prune tool, and it's kind of like the old compress in traditional versioning. You don't have to run it every day, but it is there to reduce some of the database bloat. We are excited to have some additional functionality specific to the transaction procedures to enable you to edit and synchronize data at a much more performant level. Offline is coming on board. So that's a project we've been working on about 3 years. The offline capability for sync and replication is available in the enterprise. And we're hearing that the field maps team are going to be in alignment somewhere toward the later half of the year. So you'll be able to do full offline editing in field maps and sync those edits back to the utility network. And then I don't know if we have any telecommunication customers on the phone, but we have a new beta that is going to be available after probably close to the UC, I'm hearing. And this beta is for a new type of network configuration that we're calling the telco domain network. And this telecom domain network will have specific tools and properties for some of the larger telecoms or some of the telecoms where you have service territories that might be interrupted by third-party assets. So it's all very exciting. We're definitely looking forward to the user conference coming up to walk through these in greater detail. And we'll look forward to getting our top 20 skills book for the UN available. That'll be available through Esri Press and I believe through Amazon as well.
Absolutely.
So I think we're coming up toward the end. I'm going to give you guys a chance one more time. If there's any last questions? I guess with that said, Lee, do you want to close us out, sir?
Sure. Thank you very much. That was fantastic. A lot of great information. Definitely look forward to seeing what comes out in the future. Very quickly, just to wrap things up, to touch on what I said in the beginning, we have a couple of things coming up with Magic. Student showcase will be April 25th at Rhodes College. We're also looking to schedule more webinars throughout the summer. So please go to our website, midsouthgis.org, for any information on both the students showcase and upcoming webinars. And with that, I'll say thank you again to Melissa and Remi, and thank you all for joining. Have a great day.